Hello, and welcome to the Performer's Guide, Pricing Yourself Like a Pro. Today, we will be discussing finding our day rates. Our day rate is the amount that we would like to be paid per day for our services. And we will be able to find this per diem based on our financial freedom numbers that we have calculated out before. And the term per diem tends to translate to up to 8 hours of work per day. And so what often happens with performers is we tend to base our work on an hourly rate because we think day rate equals 8 hours of work. And so first thing I really want to break down here is the differences between a day rate worker and an hourly rate worker so that we're just on the same page about this, okay? So when you're an hourly worker and you're going into a job and working up to 8 hours a day, you have an employer, you are on a W-2 if you're in America. You are usually given a uniform, you're given the work that you're to be doing for the day, and you kind of put that work aside at the end of the day. So you're not on call, you're not working or putting any mental energy into that hourly work when you're at home, okay? A day rate worker is an independent contractor. They're under a 1099. They're their own boss, and they have clients who have paid them to come do their services that they are fully in charge of. As a day rate worker, you usually have your own costume or outfit that you've provided. You're the one creating the experience and presenting it to the client. And most importantly, you're doing a lot of work before getting to that gig. Okay, you're doing emails, you're prepping your makeup, your costume, you're stretching, you're doing all of the admin work that it takes all the way up to doing that gig. Okay, and so when you present yourself as an hourly rate worker, you're already going to be putting yourself into the wrong category tax-wise. You're not an employee, you are an independent contractor. But you're also going to already start to get a haggle vibe from the client of, oh, what's the difference between 2 hours versus 3 hours, or a 30-minute show versus 2 hours of stilt walking? And we really just want to put that out of the client's minds that they're not getting an hourly rate worker. You're creating an experience that you can dictate how much of the time it takes to present this. And most importantly, you can take a break as long as you want, whenever you want, and as your body dictates, as opposed to an hourly worker who just gets 15-minute breaks when told, okay? And so first things first, we want to get it out of our mind. We're not hourly workers. We're not employees. We are independent contractors. We are entrepreneurs who have clients who are paying our day rate. And we decide what that is based on our expenses, based on the number we decide for ourselves, okay? So now that we understand that, we're gonna look at some full-time salary ranges, okay? And so these are for what would be considered full-time performers in the industry that we are working in, okay? And so some industries do work hourly, like extra work. If you're gonna go work, that's because you're usually under a W-2 and actually get hired as an employee of the shoot. But even then, their hourly work is much higher than any type of minimum wage worker. And when we do the math, it ends up still much higher than an hourly minimum wage worker. Okay. And so the next we have is go-go dancers. These also tend to be hired in-house and are typically employees of the nightclub. And they earn between $150 to $250 a night on average. Okay. And then we have like school and library shows. And you can do really well doing a school and library show circuit. And you should be able to make $200 to $300 a day per gig. And so sometimes you can even get up to 2 or 3 library or school shows within the same neighborhood. So you can actually get a much higher day rate there. Then we've got cruise ship employees. Again, you're an employee of the cruise ship industry. And so even there, it's a very low wage comparatively to what you have to work, because you not only perform, but you often have to do cruise ship duties. But even there, up to $4,000 a month is a minimum wage cruise ship performer. And then you have amusement park employees. Okay, these people are usually making between $27,000 and $43,000 a year. All of these people tend to be working 8 hours. Okay, and even then, we're seeing the wages are still pretty high. So we want to really make sure that we're giving ourselves enough to really make sure that we're getting our full year's rate. Okay, and then we're going to break down the math here more. So general circus performers, we're only perhaps performing a few shows a night, but you're also setting up the tent, doing lots of rehearsals, and there's lots of maintenance and stuff. But you're traveling full time and we're talking full-time circus performers, not part-time circ gig workers. All of these are like full-time. And so they're making between $40,000 and $70,000 a year. And then we have theater actors. Okay. And these people tend to work like a short run of a show, which could either be a week or a few months. But when we add it up, if they were to be working in their full-time theater show with very little time off, breaks between their shows, they could be earning anywhere between $59,000 and $100,000 a year. And so when we average out the average full-time worker, performer worker, it's around between $25,000 a year to $100,000 a year. And so we can already see how there's a wide gap in the way that we price ourselves. Okay, 25,000 to 100,000. And so now we want to talk about minimum wage in general, because I think there's this concept of underbidding. We're underbidding ourselves. We're not charging enough, even for small gigs where the client's like, oh, $50 for a 30-minute show, or whatever. So even at California minimum wage, where you earn $26,000 a year, if you were to be a full-time employee working 5 days a week at 8 hours, and there's 52 weeks available, minimum is $100. Okay. And so there's no reason that we should be charging less than $100. Okay. But again, we're not minimum wage workers. We're not employees. We're independent contractors who choose our own rates. Okay. And so I think oftentimes there's this, oh, I'll just take the $75 gig, or I'll take this $50 gig. If that feels energetically right for you, that's fine if you're getting some sort of exchange energetically from it. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to go into a monetary deficit if you continue to take these really low paying gigs, and you're going to eat up your available days. And then that'll mean you'll have to charge even more for another gig later. And so it's just easier to raise your rate a little bit, less energy expenditure per gig, more monetary return for each one. And you just do the math here. You decide how much you want to work and how much you want to earn. Okay. And so the salary range, again, is between $25,000 and $100,000. And so when you look at your financial freedom numbers, you look at your financial stability number, you look at your financial vitality number, you look at your financial independence numbers, where do they fall within this range? Okay. And so now we're going to figure out how you figure out your day rate. Okay. So you have your ranges, and we've looked at other full-time performers in the industry who are working the lowest rate and working the most amount of days. And so we want to figure out what type of performer you are and how much a day you need to charge. And so the way that you do that is you figure out what your income goal is for the next 12 months. And if you've done your financial freedom numbers, you'll have those totals. And so you'll take the total number and you divide it by 52 weeks in the year, because that's how many weeks there are in the year. Okay. And then you multiply it by how many weeks you want to work. Okay. So if you only want to work 1 day a week, then that's going to be different than if you want to work 5 days a week. Okay. And so we're going to go over this math together. And so you take the number you wanted to work, the money you want to earn for the year, you divide it by 52 weeks, and that's how much a week you need to earn. Okay. And so that alone is really good to know. How much a week do I need to earn? Because we might not be earning the exact same amount every single day. But at the end of the week, we want to look and see, did I hit my numbers? Okay. And then you take that number and you divide it by the number of days you want to work. And so most people don't want to work 7 days a week. Most people don't even want to work 5 days a week. Maybe you want to do your performing 1 day a week, or you're a 3 day a week performer. And so you're going to see how also a lot of times people are doing the math backwards. They think if I'm a part-time performer, I'm worth less, and so I charge less. And full-time performers are on the pedestal, and therefore they charge more. But it's actually the opposite, because what happens is if you have less days available to present your craft, it's more valuable. And you need the same amount of money at the end of the year, at the end of the week. And so if I need to earn $700, I can make $100 a day being a full-time performer, or I can make $700 in 1 day. Okay. So we're going to keep going with this and really try to break it down of there's different types of performers who work different amounts of time throughout the week, and they need different amounts of money to pay their finances. And so there's actually a wide range of wages that we could be accepting, and we might be a different type of performer than we think we are. So the type of performer that you are is based on 3 elements for your day rate. It's based on the number of days you're available to perform. It's based on your salary ranges that you need to meet your financial freedom numbers. And it is also based on your expertise of skill set. Okay. And so we really want to remember that our ranges, those are the minimums. Those are just based on our financial needs. It's not based on the value that we're providing to the client. And we're going to go over value in the next video. But you just want to realize that there's actually a lot of different elements that break up what type of performer you are. So then we've got the full-time performer versus the part-time performer, okay? And again, the full-time performer, they work 5 days a week. they're often an employee. They work for an amusement park. They work for a cruise ship. They work for a nightclub or somewhere where they're W-2. They tend to be an employee of somewhere, okay? They'll work 5 days a week, and they tend to be long-term contracts, okay? And these are considered full-time performers. And when you do the math, these performers tend to make less per day than a part-time performer. So then you've got the part-time performer. The part-time performer typically tends to be a sole proprietor, an entrepreneur. They own their own business. This is where they start to have their own clients, and they'll work a 3-day weekend with that client, perhaps, or have multiple clients that they're working 1 day a week with, but they usually tend to have another job or some other way of income, or they're just part-time performers that have a high enough rate that they can live on just part-time performing. But most of the time, people have merchandising or a second job or something else that is supplementing the income. They tend to have shorter term contracts, whether it just be like the weekend, a week, or maybe a stint of a few months. Even on a cruise ship, you could have a short-term contract, but they tend to work less and charge more for their performances. And these are also the kind of people that have like semi-annual or really recurring gigs with the same client. Like if you have a hotel client or something that you would work a few days a week, multiple times a year with them. And then you've got the specialty act performer. This is someone whose act is so exhausting, so dangerous, or so popular that they have to travel across the country or across the world for their act. They become a specialty performer, and they tend to only work 1 day a week. They have single day gigs. They'll get flown out, or they'll have multiple recurring annual gigs with the same clients. And they're also considered a part-time performer because they're an independent contractor. They have their own clients, and they're not like an employee of the gig. And so again, if we do the math, we'll see how the part-time and the specialty performer actually charge more than the full-time performer. And so this is really where I want people to start to sort of chip away at their mindset of, oh, I'm just a part-time performer. I shouldn't be charging that much as a full-time performer. No, it's not based on any of that. It's just based on how many days a week you work and how much money you need to pay your bills. So now we're going to talk about the different price ranges, right? And so now we have a minimum wage performer, someone who works and earns $25,000 a year, versus a high-end specialty performer who would make $100,000 a year, okay? So if I'm a full-time minimum wage performer, right, there's 5 days a week that I'm working, and there's 52 weeks available for performing. That gives me 260 performing days available. And so if I did the math, it comes out to be $100 a day. And what else was $100 a day? Just basic minimum wage, right? And so we can see how the math actually kind of does break down here, and it does actually work. So the next we have the part-time minimum wage performer. This person only works 3 days a week, okay? And there's 52 days available. That means there's 156 performing days. And, I jumped up a little bit here to 35,000 just for the ease of the math for the tax bracket, but it breaks down to $175 a day, okay? And so we can already see how even a part-time minimum wage, even just someone who considers themselves a minimum wage performer, someone stepping into the industry, they're already having different day rates. So then we have a specialty act minimum wage performer. This is someone who's really just stepping in. They're about to create this amazing specialty act. They don't really understand what their value is. They're still kind of charging low. At 52 weeks, $26,000 a year, you got 52. If you're only working 1 day a week, that's only 52 days. So that equals $500 a day for a newer specialty act or someone who just has really low financial expenses. Okay, so a minimum wage performer who's hoping to make $26,000 annually before taxes, their range is $100 to $500 a day. So now we're going to jump up to seasoned performers, people who have high finances. They know their worth. They want $100,000 a year, and they're willing to work for it. So if you have $100,000 that you'd like to earn, and you work 5 days a week, and there's 52 weeks a year, that's 260 working days again, remember? And so if we take $100,000 and divide it by 260, your minimum day rate would be $400. And so if you're a seasoned performer who wants to make $100,000 a year, but you only want to work 3 days a week, remember we have 52 weeks, that's 156 working days. $100,000 divided by 156, that's $650 a day. So then we have the specialty performer, right? They only work 1 day a week. And so $100,000 divided by 52, rounded, is about $2,000 a day for performance. And so if you're a seasoned performer who wants to earn, oops, I forgot to change that, but who wants to earn $100,000 annually, your range minimum would be $400 to $2,000 for your day rate before taxes. So again, this is between $25,000 to $100,000. So if you're a full-time performer, your price range would be $100 to $400 before taxes. If you consider yourself a part-time performer, your range would be $175 to $650. And if you consider yourself a specialty performer, your day rate range would be $500 to $2,000 before taxes. So, and then the other way to think of it is if you want to make minimum wage, you charge between $100 and $500 a day. And if you're seasoned, you're between $400 and $2,000 a day. So, it's just, I really want to hit this home and why we're so confused about price rates, that someone just entering into the market, they have low expenses, they're going to be charging between $100 and $500. While someone who's been doing it a long time, they have high expenses, they're not working as often, they're going to be charging between $400 and $2,000 a day for the exact same gig. And so this is already where we start to see the concept of underbidding, undercutting, undervaluing ourselves. When it's really, we all truly have different expenses and different values based on our time. So the day rate, again, is between $100 and $2,000. And this is really why people are so confused. There's no correct, easy, one rate fits it all number, okay? We need to do math for ourselves and really figure out what our expenses are, how much we want to make a year, how much we're willing to work for that, and how much people are willing to pay for it. And that's going to dictate what our day rate is. So then we want to add taxes to our day rate because remember, we are independently operating. So we don't get taxes taken out of our wages before. It comes at the end of the year. And so we really want to make sure that we have those percentages saved up. And so if you've done your math based on your needs, you're going to have to add and go up after adding taxes. So especially if you're in America, you're going to want to consider both state and federal taxes when you're adding them to your rates. And this is the federal tax bracket. And so you just want to find the number that most closely matches your financial numbers, and then slide over and look at the percentage. And that's how much you're going to want to add on top of your price rate so that you can make sure that you've got your taxes covered at the end of the year. But if you do good tax write-offs, you should be able to get some of that back. And then each state has their own tax brackets. And so when I created this module, I lived in California, so I pulled the California tax brackets. And again, you just look at how much you're earning, slide it over, and there's the percentage you want to add to save for your state taxes. We're going to say it's between 16, let's say 15 and 35%. You're going to want to add that on top of your desired rate. And again, if we're not adding those taxes on, some people are and some people aren't, then this is again where we're going to start to see pricing fluctuations where some people are adding the taxes on top of their prices and some people are just taking the taxes out from below their rate. And so you can see how if your desired salary was, again, I went with 26 because of the tax brackets, but if it was $25,000, you're going to want to at least save like an additional $5,000, add that on top for your rates. And if you're hoping to earn $100,000, then you're going to want to save around $34,000 for taxes, or add that on top. And again, if we're doing good tax write-offs, don't be scared by that number. That's not what you're going to be paying. So now these are the same price rates that we just talked about, but with taxes added, okay? And so we can see how it goes from the range from 100 to 2,000. Now that number jumps to 2680. Okay. And so if you have someone who doesn't understand how to add tax to their rates and they're coming into the industry new and they have lower expenses, they could be coming into the same gig bidding $100, feeling like, yeah, this covers my expenses. Where someone else might come in for the same one saying 2680, feeling the same confidence. So then we want to talk about holiday and international rates, okay? And so again, some people don't even know that there are different price ranges for these. And so we just want to just double it. We're just going to think of our holiday and our international rates as double because there's more, there's less of those days available, right? And there's more expectation of performance. So there's a higher value there. And with international, it's just more physical expenditure that in invisible ways that we don't see. So we double our rates. And if you have someone that understands that we double a rate and they're coming in high, they could be charging $5,750 for a gig, whereas someone with different needs could come in with $200 for the same gig. And so here's where we're just consistently seeing this feeling of being underbid, undercharged, people undervaluing themselves, when really we just have different financial needs. And so we're going to go over this in another video in greater depth, but all of these numbers that I just talked about do not include the event expenses. They do not include your travel expenses. They do not include perks and additional things we would get from the gig, like food and just being taken care of. And we don't exchange that for exposure. Okay. We add all of those things on top of our day rate because these things do not pay our bills. They don't go towards our personal finances. And so we just really want to make sure that we keep these separate in the client's mind, that I have my day rate and then these expenses are separate and these are what's negotiable separately. Thank you for watching. My name is Kristen Railing with the Performer's Guide. This is Pricing Yourself Like a Pro, finding your day rates. Thank you for watching.